speaks to you!
Hello, classic rock fans. I am reporting just a couple of days after seeing Alice Cooper play at the Miller High Life Theater here in Milwaukee, or should I say Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land from Wayne's World. Not quite. Pretty close, but not Algonquin, actually. Possibly Potawatomi or Menominee, maybe. But no, that quote in Wayne's World is just a little off when it comes to the actual history of Milwaukee. Great scene regardless. Anyway, this is the 6th time I've seen Alice Cooper in concert. There's only 3 bands I've seen more times than him: Trans-Siberian Orchestra, REO Speedwagon, and Steve Miller Band. And the reason I've seen Alice Cooper so many times is because he is a regular visitor around these parts. He comes to Milwaukee all the time, and he was one of the first artists I've seen in concert. That said, it has been quite a while since the last time I saw him. The last time I saw him was in 2015 when he was opening for Motley Crue, and that was just about 10 years ago now. But the first time I saw him was all the way back when I was in high school in 2006, which was nearly 19 years ago. And man, that is not a fun thing to say. I am not used to saying things like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was 20 years ago. Anyway, but yeah, one of the first concerts I attended was back when I was in high school. Me and some friends went to see Alice at Summerfest in Milwaukee. It was during his Dirty Diamonds tour, and I don't believe we stayed for the whole show, and we weren't close up or anything, but I remember it was a good time. I remember him singing No More Mr. Nice Guy and $1 Billion Babies and Dirty Diamonds. That's how I remember it was that tour, because that was his new song at the time. A couple of years after that, I went with my dad and my brother to see Alice at the Riverside Theater in 2008, and I thought that was an excellent show. I remember he did the hanging, like he was sentenced to die by hanging. And that was his onstage gimmick in that show, and I remember that was the first time I ever saw any sort of theatrics in a concert, and that was a really good memory. So I enjoyed that show as well. And then I saw him 3 times as the opening act for Motley Crue's The Final Tour from 2014 to 2015. And why did I see him 3 times on that tour? Because I fell for it with Motley Crue. I totally took their line about this being their final tour hook, line, and sinker. I am a total sap, and for long time viewers of this channel, you might remember the very first video I posted on this channel was talking about how irritated I was to find out that their final tour thing was bullshit, and, you know, obviously they announced their reunion in 2019. But in 2014 and 2015, yes, they were so emphatic about this not being a fake farewell tour. I took them at their word, and I thought, okay, well, these are going to be my last chances to see Motley Crue, so I've got to go every chance I get, and you know, they got their money's worth on that tour. They went everywhere, and I saw them in Milwaukee at Summerfest. I saw them in Madison at the Alliant Energy Center, and then the last time was I saw them at the old BMO Harris Bradley Center, again in Milwaukee in 2015. And Alice was the opening act for that whole tour, which I thought was great. That was one of the strongest parts of that tour, and that's why I don't totally regret going to all of those shows, because they were good shows, and Alice was the perfect act to have in that opening spot. So this is the first time I've seen him in nearly 10 years, and I wasn't even planning on going to this show, but I got an email blast saying that tickets were being discounted and I could get them for 50% off, and when I looked on the website, I saw tickets were as low with that discount as like $25. So I thought, you know what? I haven't seen Alice in a long time. That's a good deal. Let's do it. And I am so glad I did, because it was a good price and it was a fantastic show. absolutely fantastic show. And kind of in the same way that I felt after seeing 38 Special earlier this year, I will say maybe I do feel a little silly for not taking more opportunities to see Alice over these last 10 years. Because that man is a showman, world class, and there's so much good music to see on stage with him. So it was a really good night, and much like with 38 Special, Alice does not waste your time. Although he played 23 songs, he did it in under 90 minutes. No breaks between songs, no talking between songs, no overindulgent, noodling guitar solos that go on forever. Drum solo, and there were some guitar solos, but they didn't go on forever and ever. Like, time well spent. And I don't know, I appreciate that. I mean, the show was on a work night, so, I appreciated the fact that I got home by like 10 p.m. And as it turns out, that night happened to be a bizarrely foggy night for Milwaukee. We don't get a lot of really heavy fog here. But when I came out of the theater, that's what was going on downtown, which totally made for like a spooky vibe on the drive home. And while I was driving home, I happened to see a digital billboard advertising the show that I just saw. And with this fog, it looked so cool that I had to pull my car over to the side and park so I could get a proper picture of it. Yeah, I don't know. Just looked great, so I figured I'd share that with you here. It was just the cherry on top of an already fantastic evening. Alice is in his mid-70s, but he is still performing at a very high level. His vocals are still in great shape. He is still a consummate showman. I know he doesn't do nearly the amount of stuff he did back in his heyday, or even 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it is still a show with lots of theatrics and lots of entertaining moments, which again is impressive that they're able to squeeze all of that in to that tight 90-minute runtime of the show. I mean, he's got it down to a science. So that's impressive. So if you like shows that do not waste your time, Alice is one of the best at that. I have very rarely seen a show that efficient. So let's talk about some of the songs he played in that show. He opened up with a couple I didn't know, one called Lock Me Up and another called Welcome to the Show. Both were appropriate opening numbers. And then we got into the more recognizable stuff. No More Mr. Nice Guy. Man, was I singing along with that. I forgot what a great song that is. That's a song that definitely suffers from radio overplay, but when you're hearing it live and you can kind of, hear the live version with fresh ears, that is such a fun one to sing along with. The Reverend recognized me and punched me in the nose. God, I love that. All right, after that was I'm 18, Under My Wheels. Oh, that's a great song. Bed of Nails, $1 Billion Babies. And then he did a song called Snakebite, which reminded me he's got a new song out with his old band. Like the original, or what's left of the original lineup of Alice Cooper's band from back in the day. Those guys got together and put out a new song called Black Mamba. Another snake theme song.
Come a little closer, darling, look into my eyes.
So going into this show, I was kind of expecting to hear that, but that was not part of the set list. And I have to imagine it's just because the album isn't out yet. Obviously, he's working on a new album with, again, those original players from back in the day. So maybe he's saving it for when they have something to sell. I don't know, but I was expecting and kind of hoping to hear the new song because I like it. I like the new song. It's called Black Mamba. You can find it on YouTube. Also, pretty cool to hear that he's working with, his original team from way back in the day, even though his current team are stone cold killers, okay? That is a seriously impressive lineup he has. And all of them get their moments in the show, none more so than, of course, the breakout star of his band in recent years, Nita Strauss. Nita Strauss on guitar damn near stole the show. She is fantastic. An absolute legend of current rock and roll. Very cool to see her out there. She had left Alice's band just a couple of years ago, not permanently, but just to go on tour with Demi Lovato. And that tour ended, and since 2023, she's been back with Alice. And yeah, she rocks, absolutely. Had a couple of solos through the night. Definitely has the rock and roll moves, was like flailing her guitar around her and catching it and playing it with just holding the whammy bar. Like, it was pretty cool. So that was really enjoyable to see. I believe she was in the band when I saw him opening for Motley Crue. But when I saw him in 2008 and in 2006, that was even before Orianthe, or whatever her name is, was in the lineup. So he's a rare case where his band has like gotten better with time. He's been adding people that just bring chops and talent and some showmanship too. Like, he's got a great band. So yeah, if you like watching people on stage that aren't just the main person, Alice has a lot of cool players in the lineup, but definitely the breakout star is Nita Strauss. All right, we go back to the set list here. Be My Lover, Lost in America, and then after that, one of the reasons I bought the ticket when I looked at previous set lists, Alice is doing He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask from the Friday the 13th part, I think, 6 soundtrack. I love that song. I don't think he's done that song any of the times I've seen him previously, and it was so great to see him play that because that's one of my all-time favorite 80s horror soundtrack hits. You might remember last year I did a countdown of the top 10 best 80s horror movie soundtracks with my guest 80s influencer Jordan Rumsey, and one of her picks was exactly that. Friday the 13th, He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask.
Oh my gosh, he's back, the man behind the mask. I love that song.
In fact, she told me that when Alice does this song in concert, he actually brings Jason on stage and has him kill somebody during the song, which is hilarious.
I know he brings Jason on stage sometimes. So.
Oh, does he? I forgot about that part because I was too busy watching Nita Strauss absolutely shred on guitar. But yes, Jason came out on stage. He killed like a stagehand or something. Very funny, very theatrical. And again, just so awesome to hear that classic 80s soundtrack hit. After that, he did another favorite of mine, Hey Stupid. Stupid with 2 O's. That's a fun song. And that was followed by a drum solo that was not overly indulgent and did not go on too long, so that's important. And then he came back and did Welcome to My Nightmare, which is, again, such a signature song. You drill down all the way on who Alice is as an artist, and to me, I think it's Welcome to My Nightmare. It's a song that encaptures everything that's appealing about that guy, so very cool to see that live. A couple of others, Cold Ethel, Go to Hell, and then, of course, another one of my favorites because it's an 80s hit, Poison. Poison's a lot of fun, which was followed by another Nita Strauss guitar solo. From there, we kind of get into, like, the end of the show. You had it's called the Black Widow Jam, and then you get the Ballad of Dwight Fry, Killer / I Love the Dead, and then the big finale with School's Out and Feed My Frankenstein. And when he does School's Out, he kind of mashes it up with Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall.
We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control.
I remember that from when I saw him opening for Motley Crue, and hey, it works, you know. Also, he does the band introductions during School's Out, so it's appropriate that they turn that into more of a jam, because that's kind of the goodbye number. And it's also around this time, near the end of the show, where he actually did talk to the crowd for a little bit, again, during the band introductions. And of course, that's when he did the Milwaukee, Algonquin for the good land quote. And I will say, I find it a little funny that, the other line from Wayne's World is...
I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Which is true. But I guess given Alice's politics, I imagine that's not as much fun for him to recite, so he keeps it to the Algonquin for the good land. But I guess that's the more memorable part of the quote anyway. And then the last song that I Feed My Frankenstein, man, that song is so much fun. There's a reason why that's the song in Wayne's World, because that's probably his best song. It's just so fun. And of course, that's when the big prop of the show, the Frankenstein monster, comes out on stage and kind of meanders about. I guess my only mild criticism of this show is that in the past, when I've seen Alice, he has done more with the Frankenstein monster. I remember seeing videos of that Frankenstein monster, really getting into it, really dancing and moving around a lot. And this time he kind of just meandered out behind some of the players, behind Alice, just kind of stood around. And then, before the song was over, just moved back by the drums and just kind of hung out there. And if you've never seen Alice, well, that's fine because that thing is such a spectacle, so it doesn't matter what it's doing, you're looking at it. But if you've seen Alice before and you've seen that monster do more on stage before, I guess it felt like a little bit of a downshift, I suppose. You can't have the thing pretend to play guitar or dance or something, do something goofy, maybe chase one of the guitar players around. I don't know. I felt that was the only thing I would mildly criticize, but it certainly didn't ruin anything. It's not a big deal. It's just something I noticed. Yeah, as far as the other theatrical stuff during the show, he did the guillotine death this time. He didn't do the hanging like I saw in 2008. He did a Marie Antoinette thing where his wife, Cheryl, dressed up as Marie Antoinette, came out on stage, danced with him, grabbed his head and brought it down to her chest. That was very funny. And then led him over to the guillotine, and they put him in the guillotine, and it drops, and then she grabs his head, which is just a fake Alice head, and runs around the stage holding it. Again, very macabre, but very funny. That was, I guess, the big set piece of the night. So that was entertaining. And that's about it. I would say the only bummer of the night is that I did notice a lot of empty seats. The tickets going on sale at 50% off before the show started, that wasn't a gesture of goodwill or the venue trying to sell those last couple seats. That was the venue having a lot of unsold seats and needing to get more people in there. So that I felt a little bit bad for, because I feel like Alice is one of those guys classic rock fans can't be taken for granted. He is one of the most reliable touring entities in classic rock. And those are the acts we really got to appreciate. So if you haven't seen Alice, I would absolutely recommend going. Now, if he's coming to your town and you look at what tickets are available and you see that there's a lot still left unsold, I think it's probably a good idea to hold off until the week before the show to see if they put anything on discounts and try and get a cheaper ticket that way. What happened with me was the best case scenario. I bought a ticket the day before. It was an aisle seat, which is always my preference. And when I got to my seat, there was no one else in my row. I sat down in the aisle seat and the entire row next to me was empty. And the entire row in front of me, except for 2 people who were sitting directly in front of me, that whole row was empty as well. So when the show started, I thought, hey, this is great. If I want to take some photos, I can just move 2 seats over and then I'll have a clear shot at the stage with, the 2 people in front of me. Well, it got even better. As the show started, the 2 people sitting in front of me, I guess, thought the people in front of them were maybe a little too tall or moving around so much that they got up and went and sat in the row behind me. So I not only had a whole row next to me empty, I had the entire row directly in front of me empty. So I had an even better view of the stage. And again, in and out in under 90 minutes. and 23 songs in those 90 minutes. That's bang for your buck, and that is time well spent. So if you're someone who goes to a lot of concerts and appreciates an artist who values your time and does not waste it, Alice is the guy for you. Like, it was really cool that everything went so smoothly. So, yeah, I highly recommend going to see Alice Cooper. If you've seen Alice recently, please let me know what you thought of that show in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this review. I would encourage you to check out the other concert reviews I've done on this channel. If you're a classic rock fan, I guarantee I've talked about a different artist or band that you're a fan of. And if you are that fan of classic rock, I would recommend also checking out the podcast I do. It's all about classic rock. We've had a lot of fantastic guests on recently, and we are right in the middle of our Rockin' Pod coverage. I'm just back from Nashville, so the stuff that's going up on the channel right now are my interviews from my time down in Nashville at the Rockin' Pod convention, which was an absolute blast. So you definitely want to check that out as well. And with that, I will just say thanks again for watching. Go see Alice if you can. And keep rocking.